Dagda August Fulcherov is Mish Beag. Hello and you're very welcome. I'm the little storyteller and this is our Patreon Insider. So we are now at the mid of January in the year of 2021 and the audio that was released from our audio patrons there today actually dates back to October 2018. It surprised me when I actually was looking at it and recording the audio. So we are going back a bit in time, but it still feels very relevant, very pertinent to what's happening. The story is called The Secrets the Sun Reveals, and it forms one of the series of stories where I kind of explore my relationship with the Dagda, the Irish god of the Tuatha Danann, and the work that I do with him on a regular basis. And in 2018, the world seemed like it was tearing itself apart. We had hurricanes one after another. We had, scorching kind of like heat waves of sunshine. We had a blizzard early on. I think it was March 2018. There was a blizzard, and I literally went back out into the backyard here, into I think it was like a foot and a half, nearly 2 foot of snow, and decided to just dive into it and have a swim in the snow. It was crazy, but hey, it was fun. Um, but then by the time we got to October at the end of the year, we'd gone through hurricanes. We've gone through, absolutely scorching. The summer of that year broke all of the records in regards to temperature over a long period of time, and led to water shortages. Led to a hosepipe ban, led to a whole lot of kind of stuff, which in other countries might seem standard and seem normal, but Ireland, for its like location geographically, never really has that. Like, getting a bit of sunshine in Ireland is a bit of a luxury, to be honest, a bit of temperature. Um, and that's how most people saw it. That's how like a lot of people experienced it. And like every seaside town was inundated with people out. Everywhere you went, people were like, trying to absorb sun and like, sunscreening themselves for the most part and sun tanning everywhere. I'm not that kind of character. I'm very fair skinned as an Irishman. So I just go red. I just burn. So it was nice in the beginning, but I began to get worried. And at the backdrop of all the the meteorological kind of stuff going on, there was also social upheaval. There was water charges trying to be enforced in Ireland, and there was a lot of protests from people against the water charges because it was another kind of taxation on people, a taxation that was already covered in our general taxes that we pay. And so it led to like some social upheaval, which I'm delighted about. I really, really am. People being able to stand up and say, listen, this is not, what we want to have happen. So that the aftermath of all of that change was still ongoing in Ireland. And there was a lot of kind of stuff like earlier on in that year, there was the repeal of the Eighth Amendment. There was lots of kind of growing changes. But the interesting thing that happened that autumn was the high temperatures and the lack of rainfall that actually scorched Ireland very badly. And what would normally be the autumn kind of growth of grass into the winter period didn't happen. It got so bad that some features on the landscape, which hadn't been seen in years, were revealed, and some features on the landscape which hadn't been seen at all were revealed. One of the fascinating ones was on the coast of Ireland. There was a kind of marker made that said "Era" in big, huge lettering of kind of white stone, so that during World War II, when the planes were flying over the German Blitzkrieg, um, if they saw that, that would notify them that you're no longer bombing England anymore. So that actually came back and was the first time it had been seen at all since the period of the war. Um, and as fascinating as that was, it was the older stuff that was much more so. It was actually a local folklorist and someone who studies the mythology up in the Meath area around Brunaboyne, Anthony Murphy, who discovered it himself. He was out flying a drone over the Brunaboyne complex, and his recorded footage and photography of the drone showed circles, showed the outline of ring which hadn't been seen and hadn't been documented. Um, And it was only because the growth in like the summer had scorched, the heat wave had scorched back the landscape, and the grass was like dry and brown, that the outline of these deeper rooted areas still showed green. And there's a photograph attached to the story that I wrote called The Secrets the Sun Reveals. And there's also one attached to the audio, which I've released for the patrons. Um, but it's fascinating. We now had more information. There was archaeological belief that the settlement around Brunnerboyne, which is the Newgrange settlement, which has the alignment with the winter solstice, that there was a complex in that area. Like the mythology and the lore that we know is that Angus MacOak, the son of the Dagda, like took ownership of that entire area, Brunnerboyne, and it was said to be one of the most beautiful, one of the most verdant and abundant areas in the bend of the Boyne, the barrow, like the bend of the Boyne area, the valley of the Boyne, specifically around that curve in that area. Um, so to see all of the folklore and the stories made manifest and real on the landscape was very, very touching for me, but also very, very impactful. A lot of the tour guiding and stories that I actually do around Ireland is specifically that. It's taking a person to an archaeological or heritage site and say, listen, this place you're standing on is this story. You go to Tara, this has happened. These are the stories that happened where you're standing right now. And so to have the physical representation of what people knew was there and always believed was there show itself was amazing and still is. I'm still very much moved by it. But it was also a little bit concerning because you had all of this social upheaval, all of this ongoing kind of concern, and all of the geographical and the meteorological upheaval in Ireland. Not to mention outside of Ireland, I think 2018 we're in the midst of number 46's presidency, or was it 45? The Trump era of US presidency and the difficulties that was going. I think the 2018 was where we were almost verging on a war, and given like the military strikes, I think there was against Iraq or Iran, or I'm not quite sure. I'm sorry if I'm getting the information wrong, but it was very scary, not just in Ireland, but around the world, because people didn't know if the USA was going to go to a full on war because of this one individual. And all of that built up in me, and I didn't really know how to process. So the story that I wrote at the time was my processing, was my turning to, in a way, turning to my guidance, which is my deity, turning to, my belief and my faith, to be honest, um, in conversing with Dagda, breaking it down, exploring the context, and trying to figure it out within myself through the lens of that story, which I'm very, very honored and grateful to be able to do and to be able to share with people. Um, there's a lot, but there's a couple of lines in that even reading now, um, over a year and a half later, are still very impactful to me and have reminded me when I needed to be reminded most that we will always be enough, and that each of us, though we face challenges, though we face difficulties, though there's uncertainty all around us, there's a lot more people invested in things carrying on and being better than there are those invested in taking it apart and tearing it down. And so there needs to be more awareness of that and awareness of the power that each of us has. Each of us as an individual is part of the problem in many ways, but is also the root of the solution. We can resolve these problems if we, each and every single one of us, embrace the power that we have, either through a democratic process and voting for the right people to represent, or either through like direct action in regards to our community support, our community care, like, or either in just compassionate awareness supporting those who need it, because the world is only our one world. We no matter what way you want to divide humanity as a species, no matter what way you want to divide us into nations, into divisions, into political parties or whatever, We are all of us earthlings. We are all of us of this one planet. And if this planet goes, it won't really matter what political alignment you have, what religious alignment you have, what kind of, spiritual practices you engage in. If the planet is gone, it's all gone. So the reminder really of this story from so long ago has really helped to settle some of the stuff that's happening for me now. As I said, we're in January 2021, and we have all of us come through some very, very difficult times in 2020 with the ongoing pandemic and the ongoing political uncertainty. But in the darkest of times, the most powerful thing that we can really look to is ourselves. How we are going to change this moment, how we're going to change the next moment, how we're going to struggle from acorns to oaks ourselves, how we're going to grow every day to make something better tomorrow. And so I will say thank you very much for being with me, Gaurav. Mila Mahaguts for engaging with me here. If you enjoy these Patreon Insiders, if you enjoy the other YouTube content, please make sure you hit the like and the subscribe. I have never asked that before at the end of a video. This is the first time I've ever really kind of asked that, but it will really help kind of get a message to people who are interested in Dagda talk, in Dagda stories, and to try and connect people with a community that they may need. So I'm very grateful to my community. Gurmila Mahagat, thank you very, very much to all my patrons who support me with the work that I do, and to all of the other community around the Irish Pagan School where I teach courses. I'll be teaching more courses in 2021 this year. So if you're interested in a bit of John talk and Dagda teaching, please make sure you join that mailing list as well. And do, as always, take care of yourself. You're a one of a kind. There will never be anyone in this world like you. So, look after you. Slán.